The Southern Colonies. Geography of the Southern Colonies. A borderline was drawn between Maryland and Pennsylvania to define northern and southern colonies. In order to solve a frontier dispute between Maryland and Pennsylvania in the 1760s, Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon were hired to draw a borderline between these two colonies. The Mason-Dixon line was established as the borderline between these two colonies, in order to define them as the northern and southern colonies. The five colonies located to the south of this line were Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Because of its warm and humid climate, these lands were ideal for cropping. These plantations required a lot of labor, which promoted the dependencies on slavery. Virginia grows. Population in Virginia increased due to a low mortality rate. This led to large conflicts between Indians and settlers. The mortality rate decreased and thus white population increased in the colony of Virginia. As a result of diseases and violence, Indian population decreased. New settlers sought to own their own lands, and this led to the invasion of Indian lands. Nathaniel Bacon became a rebel because of his ideas against peace with Indians. He attacked Indians, causing thousands of casualties. Bacon's rebellion ended with his death, but the new settlers continued to establish in Indian lands, causing more conflicts. Religious tolerance in Maryland. George Colbert founded a new colony for Catholics, who were mistreated in the colonies because of their beliefs. George Colbert was granted a letter to found a Catholic colony called Maryland. Colbert died, and his son, Baron Baltimore, took his place and established an assembly similar to the Virginia Chamber. Due to tensions between Protestants and Catholics, Lord Baltimore signed the Act of Toleration in 1649, which granted any Christian the right to vote. Although this law did not protect non-Christians, it was an important step towards religious tolerance. The colonies in Carolinas and Georgia. The southern colonies spread to Georgia and Carolina, both north and south. In 1663, King Charles II grants a letter to establish Carolina. Huge plantations developed in South Carolina, but they became dependent on slave labor. In the northern regions, small farms developed because of the geographic disadvantages. Rice cultivation spread, becoming the most important one in the region. Charlestown became the largest city in southern colonies. The colony was divided in two, in order to create North Carolina and South Carolina. Georgia was founded to prevent Spanish expansion from Florida, and because James Oglethorpe sought to defend British debtors. Changes in the southern colonies. Plantations and characteristics of the colonies divided the South into poor and rich. Weather conditions in the southern colonies caused two different ways of life. The tide-watered region was the warmer region, where the large plantations and wealth were. Slavery was important since there was a large amount of labor required. The backcountry was the farthest off region from the coast. These lands were poorly communicated and populated by poor people who worked the land without slaves, and thus generated little wealth. This was how social classes were divided in Southern colonies.